Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network here at Center Ice. I'm Nick. Joining me here shortly is Brit. There is a preseason Avalanche game. I'm going to cut right to the chase. We know there's a preseason Avalanche game. This was about the only time we were able to fit it in. So you might have to dual cast. Obviously, we kind of have the game kind of going off to the side here. But either way, we're happy you're with us as we kind of go through today's episode. Hopefully, we'll try to keep it short. So just maybe the first period is only the thing you're dual watching, and then you're able to get right back to the game. Okay, so we missed last week. There were some scheduling concerns that we had. Just wasn't going to be able to work out. So we have to do a couple of cleanup items from that. So really quickly, it was on the, I believe, 24th, if I'm not mistaken, where the Colorado Avalanche made an extension signing. And this one was probably the best news that anybody could ever ask for because it was Logan O'Connor assigned to a 6-year deal, 6-year extension, excuse me, I should say. And I believe the AAV was 2.5, somewhere around there. But either way, this was huge. This was probably one of the greatest things to happen in a few months, besides obviously the free agency and things like that, the Landeskog news, to be able to get Logan O'Connor. Sorry, Brett's texting me. It looks like she's getting some problems getting in. Anyway, so besides the last couple of months of Landeskog and all that, Logan O'Connor signing him to 6 years is huge, and it's not much against the cap either, and that's probably the best news out of all because you look at what Logan O'Connor brings to the table, right? Amazing shorthand, penalty kill, fantastic. He's one of your go-tos when you are looking for someone that needs to day in and day out be there where he needs to be, disrupting their power plays, stuff like that. And even in this case from last season, getting 3 shorthanded goals in 3 consecutive games. Like, that's just not something you do every other day, So it's super awesome to have him back. Obviously, he gives it his all. We've always, Britt and I have been just ranting and raving about just the work ethic that he has. He's just fantastic at what he does. I think him paired together with Ross Colton and Miles Wood, that Roaring 20s line, as it's called, is phenomenal. It's like clockwork. Those are 3 guys that give their all every single shift, and it makes it for a very fun line of hockey to watch. So we're super excited to have him back. Obviously, I think he's going to be right around the time to come back from his injuries at about the start of the season here in less than a week. Which that's good news. So with that out of the way, there was also a few other things that have been going on since the preseason has started. And we'll get to that in just a second. But before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe, follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can follow them on the various social media platforms and where you get your podcasts. If you want to follow us, you can follow us at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. So let's kind of go into the actual bulk of what our episode's going to cover. So today we were going to talk about the preseason, who's been standing out, the preseason itself, because it's been plagued with injuries, and then we're going to talk about the forwards, and that's going to kind of take us right to the start of the season. And the next episode, we're going to do, I think we're going to do a recorded episode and send that out just about an hour before opening face-off for the Avalanche on the 9th, so that way we can give ourselves get a whole preseason review, things like that. We'll just kind of do a little last batten down the hatches episode, and we'll be on our way. So let's kind of jump into that then. So preseason, the Avalanche have done 5 this now, that being, I believe, their 6th game or 4th, maybe 5th, but either way, they're playing right now. And it has been disappointing, to say the least. Now, granted, they're all preseason games. I'm not worried about what that's going to mean coming into the regular season. I don't think anyone should. But the fact that you haven't won at least one is kind of sad, you know? But at the same time, you've learned a lot of things. And that's probably the most important thing is what you're taking away from this. Um, so right now they're playing the Golden Knights, which they did last time. They also have losses against the Stars twice and the Utah Hockey Club once. And they will play the Utah Hockey Club one more time on Saturday before then their regular season will start on Wednesday, October 9th. The biggest takeaways I am seeing from this are three particular players. The first one, which should be relatively obvious because we've been throwing in our starting lineups and he's posted on the second line, that's Nikolai Kovalenko. He has been very impressive. Like he's kind of the everywhere man, doing what he needs to do. Obviously, he's still got a little experience that needs to be had. You can tell some of these little mistakes here and there. Preseason, again, you're learning. It's fine. Here's where I become impressed with Nikolai Kovalenko is that from what we've seen from insiders that are at the practice facility in Denver, everything like that. Hey, there she is.
I genuinely believe that the world is like conspiring against me to
It's locking you out from everything.
Podcasting. I feel like maybe this is a sign that I'm not very good at this and I should stop. But I'm gonna
Nonsense. Nonsense. You're
tackling
the
every single obstacle humanly possible to get on the podcast every week. It's unbelievable.
No, you're doing fine. You're doing just great. Besides, without you, it's just some chunky white guy that's just talking. So
no, it's probably a lot more organized and well put together.
Nonsense. Nonsense.
Keep forcing my nonsense on you. So here I am.
Well, very good. So I was just talking about preseason, and I was talking about there are three players that I've noticed, despite not having won a game. There are three players in this preseason that I have taken note of, and the first one that I was talking about was Nikolai Kovalenko. And the one thing that I was saying, just as you were hopping on, was Nathan MacKinnon appears to have kind of taken Kovalenko under his wing, giving him some pointers. You can see just through these videos that insiders are providing that he's really working with him. And like I said, we posted him from our off-season line projections. We posted him on our second lines. So this is kind of one where it's like you'd expect him to be producing and doing something through this preseason, and he has. So that's at least something comforting to me, is that the guy that you put on your second line left wing or right wing, excuse me, is one of the guys that's actually coming out on top.
Yeah, this preseason can pretty much be summed up as ass. I think everybody is entirely underwhelmed. I keep telling myself this is what preseason is for. They're utilizing it properly. They're trying to, but like overall, oh my God, some of these games have been almost impossible to watch. And one of the only consistent positives has been Kovalenko. And it's really, really reassuring because he came from Russia and we didn't have to bend his arm to come here, but it was kind of with the understanding that he's not coming here to play AHL hockey. He had an out clause that if he were sent down to the AHL, he could leave. So it felt kind of not all in, and maybe, I don't want to say entitled, but he definitely felt that he was not, he wasn't worthy of anything other than playing in the NHL. So I kind of had a worry of entitlement or maybe not wanting to be here or not all in. But from everything that I've gathered, he's everything that you generally don't hear of Russian players. He seems to be a locker room favorite also. He's very likable off the ice, according to beat writers, media people, teammates. It sounds like he's a great teammate so far. He is an absolute dog on the ice. That Vegas game the other night was painful. I mean, it was such a tease too, because we got out there and we got this tantalizing goal from Manala with just a boom, boom, Makar McKinnon. And it's like, hell yeah, it's Avs time. And it was all downhill from there. But the only nonstop positive was Kovalenko, and I've heard people compare him to Lehkonen with
Sure.
possibly even a higher IQ, which Lehkonen is his own breed of player. He's one of those players that isn't truly appreciated by anyone other than his team. I truly think that he is like so undervalued, underappreciated, underpaid. And I don't know that other teams would be able to see the value in him for what he truly is worth to us. But if the people watching him and that are around him often truly see him as a Kovalenko type with possibly a higher ceiling, that's really, really exciting. And it was so exciting to see him. He's clearly on Bednar's list. I always talk about Bednar's guys. He's got his guys. TJ Tynan. Why is Tynan still around? Well, he's probably one of Bednar's guys.
On the list.
Kovalenko has apparently made that list, and generally it comes down to what does Bednar always wants? He wants dudes that check. He wants the dudes that work hard in every single second of the game. He expects a lot out of them, and he is on Bednar's list. And Kovalenko was thrown out there with McKinnon and Makar for some regular. I mean, they didn't play too much in that preseason game, but he proved. And I know it seems like I should be able to hop out on the ice and be able to score a goal if I'm with McKinnon and Makar, but it just doesn't work like that. It takes special people to be able to keep up with and understand and process at the same level as our first line, and to see him almost seamlessly transition into that position and prove that we can essentially play him anywhere in the lineup, because he plays like a fourth liner with the speed of a first liner. I mean, that is, if we take away anything positive, because it's certainly not coming from all of the other dudes that we desperately hoped for, judging by the cuts, is that he is living up to every expectation or every anticipation or hope or desire we had from him. I'm very, very high on Kovalenko right now.
Yeah, as we all kind of should be. Another player that I have seen that's kind of stood out, sorry, my leg itches real quick, that I have seen that stood out as far as just kind of, we've already seen him up in the Avalanche roster before, and that's Sam Malinsky. Now, obviously, defenseman, kind of different story, but at the same time, he's making a really good case for himself again that he deserves to be on this opening night roster, you know, because it's just he's got a slap shot that can soar 1,000 miles an hour, and
he's doing it just regardless of the rest of the team sucking.
Exactly.
He's not having to vibe. You know, he's not only excelling when the team is playing well, he is almost single-handedly dragging the team through some, you know, spots in these preseason games. There have been some very, very, very bad moments of hockey played, himself included. He's had a couple big mistakes, but he's feeling it out. I mean, I genuinely believe that he's probably etched himself out a roster spot, a permanent roster spot. He has to clear so he's gonna have to be sent down. I don't know. I just don't think he's going to. And I know Bednar loves him.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at who that third pairing defense is that we talked about in those lines. It's a potentially Brandstrom, Shillington, DeHaan line that it's like, we don't know who it's going to be. But meanwhile, Sam Malinsky's over here. He's had playing time, even goals in the NHL. And
I think we're settled on Malinsky and Brandstrom. I really
think so. And I mean, I get there's the experience that DeHaan has and the really high ceiling that Shillington has.
And
I understand
DeHaan has had a very good couple of games. I will say that he's had
absolutely
really bad plays, but he has been one of the more positive spots on the roster.
He has been a constant. I'd agree with you there. So that, I mean, like I said, it's a good problem to have. But if you're just kind of looking at the metrics, you're almost like, gosh, Sam Malinsky almost feels like the guy to go to right now, just because of he's younger age. He's got a lot more energy. He's playing like he needs something. You know what I mean?
He's a guy that we might have around for 10 years. I think he's 24, 25. He's a college graduate. So he's on the older side, but full grown, supposedly mentally fully, when do you men, you fully age out at what, like 25 is supposedly when you, but I mean,
Well, mentally and physically are two different things, Britt.
I never on either, it seems.
Never
I
on either.
do fully support investing in him as the future, and Brandstrom, I mean, even if they both split it up and there's some scratches, I don't think that they're going to bring Malinsky up and then healthy scratch him a lot, because Bednar is a big believer and they're better off getting ice anywhere other than sitting here. And I think you're better off being stingy with some of our older, more delicate defensemen's ice time, because as we've said before, we have a lineup that is inevitably going to have injuries. Fighting each other in practice, apparently.
Which it sounds like all good on that front, I'm hoping. So
yeah,
very strange. So. Like that doesn't happen very often at Avalanche camp, is where there's some rifts and stuff going on. But it sounds like everything's smoothed out, and all three of them are out there on the ice. I'm looking at, or at least not right now, but I saw all three of them out on the ice. So it doesn't look like it's any worse for wear. And then the third one, this one shouldn't be much of a surprise, and it's Cal Ritchie. And
that goal,
apart from the highlight goal, which
it was on purpose. Bednar,
he absolutely knew what he was
doing. During like a shootout or something, but like if you slow it down, it was definitely first I was like, oh my god, he whipped it, and they're trying to say it was intentional, but it truly was intentional. And I haven't been overly impressed. His speed is certainly an issue. He just kind of feels like a slug out there. I mean, he's been sufficient. I don't think he's etched a roster spot, but if he never gets an NHL game, that highlight reel is going to pop up for years to come. Have the balls is pretty cool. I think it's cool.
I think so too. So for those of you who don't know, it was Cal Ritchie, and it was a goal against Utah's Karel Vejmelka, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And he just goes from his forehand, quickly shifts to a backhand, and caught Vejmelka completely off guard because you thought he was going to shoot it.
A snapshot, a very wildly
and it was just so amazing.
And then he just backhands it. And if you watch, you can see him position the puck.
Oh, yeah.
He does send it on a different trajectory to where he can catch it on his forehand. And not only did he catch it, he hit that thing crossbar. I mean, it was such a perfect moment.
You couldn't place it any better. You really couldn't.
That's probably the goal of the preseason. I mean, it's going to go out. If that was in an NHL game, it might be the goal of the year. It was
really good. It was really good. So again, besides that highlight reel, which now you're like, okay, now you can see he's capable of stuff like that. I mean, but you're kind of exactly right. I mean, roster spots as far as forwards, they're a bit more tight, right? So it's like, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that, but he's definitely going to go back to the AA. No, let's see. I think we only got one.
What sucks with Callum Ritchie is he can't go to the AHL. He's either has to go back to his junior team with the OHL.
And if he gets placed on waivers, he will get picked up because of the way he's been producing, or I should say playing, out on the ice. I mean, he's going to leave.
And I think he's been underwhelming, but everybody knows what his ceiling is. We drafted him late because he dropped after an injury. So there are a lot of people that are going to be willing to take a chance. But so that gives us a 9-game tryout, which might be perfect to get us to a new Gabe Lehkonen return. Yeah. I don't think he's NHL ready. It's unfortunate that he can't go to the Eagles, as he's not going to have a lot of development with the junior team, but I guess he can just go stroke his ego. He's just, foot speed's not there.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, you look at a player like Val Nichushkin, where speed, he's like a brick that's out there on the ice, right, as far as speed goes. But he still has plenty of talent. So Cal Ritchie has little bits like that, but he's wherever he gets sent. Oh yeah, and he's got plenty of time and all that stuff. But wherever he does get sent, AHL or elsewhere, it's going to be kicking and screaming because he made a pretty good case in this preseason.
Yeah. I'd imagine that we will keep him those 9 games until he would have to clear waivers.
I would hope so.
Or at least a couple of them. The fact that he hasn't dazzled and is still there proves that they know what they anticipate they can get out of him, and they're waiting to see it. Or if it's just to use him as a patch until one of the big guys gets back.
Yep, and I think you're exactly right. So speaking of preseason, let's kind of shift gears into this. There is one more that has not continued on with the Avalanche, and this is a familiar name, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. It was announced today that they cut him from his PTO. Thoughts on that?
Boring and like very rarely does this team do things that shock me. And I called you immediately after I saw that. I was truly caught. So I didn't even realize that was on the table. I thought that there was just a contract with his name signed, just waiting to be put in the little scanner guy. Honestly, it breaks my heart a little bit. The way that they interview, I feel like he was teased, like he was just led on by a girl and then ghosted. It's I don't know. It just really confuses me. Clearly, I would imagine it comes down to a speed thing because culture-wise, that locker room needs him. He's a face-off. Even if he did nothing on this team other than take face-offs, our
face-off percentage would go.
We need someone on face-offs. And I think it's just a testament as to how tight the squeeze is right now. I pray that it wasn't on bad terms, or that maybe even he realized that he was hurting and not going to be able to do this. But his interviews were so upbeat and so excited, just it already felt like he was on the team. Honestly, it felt like he never left.
It really did. And it kind of was. And that's where the sad part for me comes in. However, I do need to kind of give myself that dose of realism. It's like he was there on a tryout, right? And that's the thing, is similar to
solidified so fast.
You think, right? But you have players like Tyson Barrie, who he's signed. That's good news. And potentially what I'm seeing, Kyler Yamamoto for Utah, who he's made a case with, if he's not signed by the end of like 2 days from now, something's up.
I was wondering how he wouldn't. I mean, there's no way that he would not be an NHL player. That would be insane.
Yeah, he's been far and away the best player on Utah's ice so far.
Yeah. How old is he? Because I mean,
he's late 20s, I think, 28, 29. I don't think any older than that. But
as much as I want to be astounded, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare is 39 years old, and that is like old. Putting that into context.
That is retirement.
90 years old in like human age. I mean, that's
bone shaking when you're getting up out of the chair.
Yeah, and it is unfortunate. I mean, we talk about how geriatric he is, and you look at him in the locker room, and he's absolutely ripped. I mean, NHL old is not real life.
It's not your grandpa type old.
I really hope that it was amicable, and that maybe he was in agreement, and that I just hope that they didn't hurt his feelings. That's all.
I mean, it's hard to do these types of things because I mean, Jack Johnson made it through a PTO, and he ended up lasting 3-4 years on the team, right?
And Jack Johnson was never in shape like that. But the thing is, their roles are so vastly different.
Exactly. So I can't help but wonder if this production that he's had, like he's got it, but there's younger people that are producing the same type of stuff, right? So it's like if you're gonna have the same weight of apple, you might as well go with the fresher one. You know what I mean? So again, it's sad, but it's hockey's a business at the end of the day.
In most other years, he would probably find a spot, but we just have such a weird squeeze, and we have to consider the positions coming back.
Yep.
You've got guys like Richie who can play wing or center, so we have to squeeze every ounce of juice from every single area possible. I get it, but I wish that
it's not fun to do.
I don't know if he's going to be able to sign somewhere else. It seems wild that we kept him so long. And I mean, I don't know if they get paid for that, but I mean, he was truly one of the foundations of the team for a lot of the preseason games. I never felt like he stood out as poor, but
he walked so the 2022 team could run.
You have to hope that means good news for other guys, for Landy and Lehkonen coming back, that maybe they're a little more positive about their return and capability when they do return, and that we wouldn't, maybe he doesn't want to be a healthy scratch. I don't know.
No,
honestly, Ducks. They should sign him. Somebody like the Ducks, the Sharks, somewhere with a
No, seriously, and we
no,
talked about that, I think, last episode, is veteran presence makes such a huge difference that it could
it's a concern
make
in the Avs
make a
locker
big
room.
sway, on some team like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we start going into reminiscing over the old days with PE Belmar, let's kind of shift into now the league as a whole, because Brit, there is a lot of stuff going on as far as injuries in the preseason. And
It's
my question is,
so wild.
what
I don't
has
know, because
happened from last season to this?
Preseason started, Drew Doughty went down, and it was like, damn, sucks for LA. That is wild. Oh my God, that's such bad luck. And then it just kept happening. And then Line got hurt. And then Stutzel got hit. I don't even know if he's hurt, but you've got David
and
Ryan.
Then Arbor Shakai decided to be a man possessed by death. It's like,
it's so hard for me to love you, dude. This preseason has been out of
it's been killer.
So what's your opinion?
Went down.
Oh my God. Could you imagine how much money these Sharks fans paid for opening season tickets to watch Celebrini and Celebrini alone?
Yeah, I think he'll still make the opening night play, but it sounds like they were just resting him because it was just an awkward stick that he happened to step on while going at the net against Utah.
And those ones are so hard because in preseason, he bodied him all the way down. He saw him go to take that shot, so he's on one foot, causes him to lose an edge, and it's like, you don't have to do that, but also you got to do that. And so I don't know. Those ones are the hardest for me, are the ones going into the boards where you have to make. I don't know if people realize how fast the game of hockey occurs, even in my 9:30 Wednesday evening in Sioux City, Iowa beer league is fast. But like in the NHL, I just really don't think people grasp how quickly these decisions are made. It's not a conscious decision that I'm going to knock his foot out from under him and end his career. It's really unfortunate.
It's a second decision. It really is. Quick timeout. Goal, Colorado Avalanche.
I had to shut all my stuff off to turn this back on. So I said
I know you're good. I'll just kind of keep tabs, but yeah, Jonathan Duran just scored a goal. So the Avalanche currently are up 1-0.
Good. I gotta get my Duran jersey.
I know he's next in line. Which, shout out to my wife, by the way. She found the Stadium Series jersey online with Nico on the name and surprised me with it. So I'm just going to wear that.
Manifesting a contract signing coming up?
I certainly hope I do.
This Jeremy Swayman contract thing is just like, I can't handle this if this is how it goes with Mikko. I will literally have to shut down
until a live drama show just unfolding right before our eyes. Like if Jersey Shore was the Boston Bruins type thing. Like it's so, I'm just like, you have got to be kidding me.
It's so hard. And it makes me so sad because I'm always going to be a goalie sympathizer. And I don't know if you've tuned into the Face Off documentary comes out tomorrow through Amazon.
Okay. So I was wondering.
Excited. There is an episode on Jeremy Swayman that they filmed last year, and Jeremy Swayman went through arbitration last year. Up until last year, Ullmark was kind of the money. He won the Vezina. They always gave preference to him. And then they traded Ullmark before they re-signed Swayman.
Before they had a deal in place. That's just wild.
Well, and last year when they went through arbitration, apparently there is some juicy goss about Swayman said he wrote down all the things that they said he wasn't good enough at, that he didn't show up in the playoffs, that they couldn't trust him. He said he wrote, and this was at the end of last year, he said he wrote them down and he looked at them regularly as motivation. And he said, and I looked at it and perform in the playoffs, check mark. So he is coming in with very publicly known hurt feelings. And fortunately, Mikko Rantanen's like the opposite. Mikko Rantanen's like, dude, we just won the Stanley Cup and I play with like the greatest dudes ever. Like, why would I? So their mentalities are different. But here's the question I wanted to propose to you. If the Avs found out that either Nuke or Gabe was not returning, how would you feel about pursuing Swayman if trade came on if that, because at some point he might just, I think that they're at odds over like 0.5 million just because he doesn't want to give in to make a point. I personally don't believe that he deserves that. I don't think he's proven enough. I don't believe in 8-year contracts for goalies. But what do you think about Swayman? If they had to retain half because they're,
oh man,
we would probably have to send something that hurts a little.
That would be kind of the thing is it wouldn't just be an Alexander Georgiev and a high pick. You'd have to throw an additional
Probably
person
like,
in there because just
but
of
they are
the
going to
nature of
have
the deal.
zero leverage and need to do something.
Yeah.
And they don't want to keep him in their division, I would imagine.
Yeah. And like, could I see Swayman with Colorado? Sure. I mean, I could see friggin' any goalie on Colorado.
You trust him that much more than Georgiev, though?
And that's my thing, though. It's like consistently Georgiev has been in the top 3 in crucial categories for the past 2 seasons. Not the other night, but like I said, we talked about that.
Beg people to consider this is the time that he's probably trying new things, tweaking things, trying different things.
He's figuring stuff out. Just like
preseason for goalies too. But I just thought it was interesting that lots of people like on the Dangle show, the Steve Dangle show, various areas of media that are not Avalanche related discussing the Avs inquiring, but I have faith in Georgiev that I don't think it's feasible or worth it. I would much rather go seek out a player. I just think that Georgiev's ceiling is so high that.
And I think you're exactly right, because you look back on the 2022 team, Darcy Kemper was their goalie, and they won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Right now, Darcy Kemper has now switched to 2 teams since then.
Yeah. I hope so. Man, I feel
absolutely love him to death. I wish we had something that kept him here. I really did, because you look at the roster that was placed before him, the skaters, the 5 guys in front of him made his life so much easier. Right?
You remember there was a point over Christmas where I said there is something wrong with this man's hand and glove. There is something wrong with him. Like it. Oh,
there still could be.
But the thing is, Georgiev's ceiling is, when he's good, he's so good. And I feel like the team getting off on the right foot can set him off on that direction. I really think Johansson kind of derailed a lot of feelings and locker room stuff. Sorry, I'm off on a big, huge tangent. But anyway,
so I'll bring it around. It's okay. I got it.
Swayman.
But
I was shocked at how many people outside of the Avs media brought that up. As much as I make fun of the Avs or dislike decisions that they make, I cannot handle when national media makes fun of anyone on my team. Like the whole All-Star thing and him being like a laughingstock for being at the All-Star game pisses me off. And then he
got bad blood on that.
Gave it out. It's just, it makes me so mad that they acted like it was a joke getting him in. But truly, he performed really, really, really well. Like one of the better goalies at the All-Star game. I don't know. And it's always like the people that like What Chaos, they make fun of it a lot. And I'm just like, stop talking about my team. We can make fun of everyone else, but not mine.
You're not allowed to pick on my younger brother. That's my job.
And we've got Onanen. So,
Yeah.
Which has the preseason raised your stock or lowered your stock so far?
As far as Onanen?
Onanen.
I honestly, again, he looks fine. I'm totally fine with Onanen. I'm ready to see him face big teams now, right? Like your Edmontons or Stars, your big guys, right? I want to see, because like we've seen him shut out Chicago back-to-back games, but that was Chicago, right?
Yeah.
I'm ready for him to take that test. I've seen he's taken really large strides, so I think stock has, if anything, it's probably gone up. Yeah. So I'm excited to see Onanen, because he's playing actually right now. He just made a pretty impressive save. But I'm excited to see kind of how he plays as well, because again, with that whole goaltending thing that we talked about, to sum it all up, and then we'll get back to our point. with Georgiev not needing to play as many games, Hononen can now take a step up. I think both, it will benefit both. At the end of
Competition
the
will definitely be good for both of them.
that'd be
And
great for both.
camaraderie. I mean, there's a delicate balance of camaraderie. And I said multiple times, is Swayman going to be the same goalie without his little goalie hug buddy? Those relationships are good and bad, but hopefully they can make it a good one.
Yeah.
So with the preseason, do you want less, more, or the same, or something else?
Cool. So that's going to be the question. So with these injuries that have happened, that was the big discussion that has been opened up. In fact,
Yeah.
I think in the board meetings,
They discussed
they
it.
brought up the discussion
With the
of
caveat that they would then add 2 more games to the regular season. Like, for the love of God, just start
here's
the
my
season
thing.
earlier.
Here's my thing. Because of my little OCD nature, where I need to have things be whole, I like this idea of shortening the preseason 2 games and extending the regular season 2 games, because total playing games does not change, right? So that's fine.
Yeah.
84 regular season games. That now means that you can play a full 4-game series with your entire division. Because right now, how it's set up is you play 4 games with 5 of your division, and then 3 games with 2.
And it seemed like
inside
last
your division.
year
I'm just like, just drives me nuts. So with that change, that means you play an even 2 games with people outside your conference, and even 3 games with people in your conference but not in your division, and then an even 4 with everyone in your division. I think that to me is the solution, because that then brings whole product, and you can string along a perfect series of who did this, I think it brings everything
feel
together.
like if anything, this season needs to be shorter. Like, cut it. I just feel like we're maxing out their bodies, especially when you consider how they train in the off season. Yeah, I didn't even consider that. So then you would want a 4-game. So teams can vary. Is the minimum 5? It's like between 5 and 8. The teams get to like decide, don't they? The preseason is weird.
So it depends on the matchup, because again, the 2-game series, that's obvious, a home and home. The 4-game, that's obvious, 2 away, 2 home. The 3, I think it depended on standings.
Okay.
I think that's what it was, or agreeance, something like that. But there's ways that the NHL scheduling can balance it. So whenever you do have your 3-game series, that your 2 roads on this team, say the Kraken, and then the 2 on this side, say the Flames, you get 2 at home for them. So it's like there's ways that they can balance it out. But I mean, that to me seems like the quickest fix, because that means less games to potentially get injured. However, now I'm going to kind of counterpoint myself. You have 84 chances still to injure yourself.
Exactly.
Like, injuries are going to happen regardless, right? So where's the happy medium, right? So it's like, 4 preseason games is probably enough to kind of get into shape. You don't really need all your rookies going down there, because most of them are going to get sent back.
These guys aren't spending the summer partying and coming back out of shape and then utilizing camp and preseason to get in shape anymore. I mean, it's such a different world. But there is something to that is like cannot be achieved outside of competitive gameplay. So here's my thing that I keep tossing around in my brain, and I don't know what the proper way to organize it is. There's people that make more money than I do that are paid to do it, but there are roster rules. I almost feel like they could make kind of strict roster rules regarding, because what it comes down to is a lot of times the injuries come from guys who are looking to make a point or get seen or stand out. I got to wonder if they did less games, so they would be cutting down the rosters faster and eliminating, I don't want to say like riffraff, but there's guys that hang around that are not, they're clearly not going to make the NHL roster. And honestly, a lot of them become liabilities because they want to stand out, and that comes generally in the form of a big check. If they like limited cut it down by a game, and then really strictly set up the rosters to where you tapered off the number of non-NHL rostered players, like vets, however they do it, where they play so many games. If you cut them out quicker, does it still give? And it's hard though, because then you do limit the coach's ability to view them. You know what I mean? Really, really. And I do genuinely believe that Bednar is utilizing this to assess every inch of our rookies' games. But I feel like maybe if you lessened the amount of fringe guys, you might end up with less of that, because that's where it seems most of the injuries are coming from dudes looking to lay big hits. But then, I mean, you've got guys like, I mean, I don't think that guy, he's not a fringe player anymore, isn't he? I mean, he's got a solidified roster.
He's a solidified roster position player. But again, is there really a way to stop injuries from happening? No,
there's not.
It could happen in even just one game, right?
I've said it multiple times. I would be fine if they didn't put McKinnon, Mikko, and Makar on the ice at all for preseason. When you consider those guys aren't taking the summer off. I genuinely throw them in for one game. Or my other thing that I was thinking is, why don't we do more of like a in division, like the rookie tournament play, where
I would like to see that for like your development players that are on the fringe. That's a good idea.
The games up so that the games don't need to be 3 periods. Don't give them a chance to let it burn and fester. I think that if you had 2 15-minute periods, just like the rookie tournament where you do these brief games, because have we even gotten to see many of these guys when you consider the fact that it's been special teams almost the entirety of the game for the entire preseason. And a lot of the guys that we're trying to get a good look at they're not special teams guys. And how do you judge a goalie when they're constantly, I mean, how many 5-on-3s does a goalie see in a season in proportion to what they've seen in the last few days? It's insane, the number of 5-on-3s. I mean,
it's crazy.
It's almost irrelative to actual gameplay. You may as well just be doing drills because it's not actual gameplay.
Yep. So I think that's probably a good little solution there, is to just have some of these games just be kind of your development / fringe, where they assign them down there, or PTOs even, like whoever, right? Unless they're veterans, then sure, you could throw them on the main roster. But
make it so that if you get 2 penalties, kicked out, or make it so that these guys who are getting the penalties and doing this stuff kicked out. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't know. I just, I cannot believe. So Doughty, Laine, Celebrini, Panarin. Panarin should be okay, right?
And Celebrini too. I think both of them will be okay. It was more precautionary.
But did you see that hit on Drew Doughty? I mean, just unnecessary. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I can justify both sides, but it's just hard to look at literally the future heart and soul of a whole entire hockey team possibly having a career-ending injury. You know what I mean? It just makes me sick. And yes, it could happen in a game, but players are going to be a lot more controlled in a game.
Yeah, preseason is more of a useless scenario. I totally agree, though.
Yeah,
I totally agree. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the NHL does on that front. I guess stay tuned for the next year.
Nice that they're talking CBA already. Hopefully they can have that shit figured out and we don't have to go through a lockout.
No kidding.
If they can get it all squared away, I mean, it doesn't seem like this should be a CBA they're not going into it as angry as they generally have been. It seems like the ones with the lockouts, there was always like just a hard line that nobody would cross, but it doesn't feel like it's the same.
I'm not too overly worried about it, but you would like to see something done quicker or sooner rather than later, Okay. So, let's kind of do a little speed run then on this one, just so we're not going completely out of control with time. Going into the season, let's look at the forwards. So first time we did goalies. Last episode we did defense. This episode we're going to do forward. Same thing. We're going to go line by line. I'm going to go 4 through 1, just because that I find will be a little bit more fun.
Okay.
So, fourth line players. So, as it sits, who is that going to be? That's kind of my key to success for the fourth line is figure out who your depth provisionals are going to be, and then let them run. Like, just play with passion and scoring. Like, I know Kiviranta is probably going to be there. Chris Wagner's probably going to be there. Who's the third?
My fourth line. Parker Kelly, man. He has been perfectly trustworthy. I wouldn't say standout, but sometimes just not standing out is exactly what is needed from you. And that might be what the Avs call up for the fourth line. I really do think that Parker Kelly has a good chance at being a mainstay as we go through this transition period. I've got Kiviranta, Parker Kelly, and
Chris Wagner.
Yeah. And I mean, Wagner's he's tried and true. You know what I mean? He's just like the golden solid. We know exactly what we're going to get from him, what we're not going to get from him. That's okay. He's just a tried and true dude.
Yep. I think that's perfect. I think same thing. Kiviranta, he's scored. He knows how to score. He's nice and quick. He doesn't like make mistakes very often, but he doesn't quite do standout jobs, right? He's just a solid fourth liner, and that's
until he randomly pulls a hat trick out of his butt.
Until he does that, yeah, pretty much. So as long as he's capable of that, still totally fine with me. With Parker Kelly, same kind of thing. He has still yet to prove himself fully with the Avalanche, but I don't think that's going to be much of an issue, considering his kind of past. I think again, there's always that Avalanche effect that we always talk about, where you take someone as the change of scenery transition, and all of a sudden they flourish, right? Parker Kelly has all the chance in the world to do that, and he may see himself jump up to the second line by the end of the year, should everything go, in my mind, the way it should. Like that's kind of how
a really sweet interview from him. Excited about a fresh new start. Honestly, feels like everybody on the Sens could probably use a fresh new start. So it is a beautiful thing to see when guys leave seemingly hopeless situations and find their love for the game again.
Find new life.
Yeah.
It really is exactly that, though. It feels like it, at least.
Yeah.
And then Chris Wagner, he kind of came into the fray as almost a desperation call-up, and
wasn't he like preparing to sign in Sweden?
Something around that, like they were just like, dude, we need you, and he was like, okay, and he's kind of just been this stable workforce ever since. Like, it's like, oh, cool, Chris.
Yeah, workforce is like perfectly it. You get what you get, and sometimes predictable is more value in many positions. Predictable holds as much valuable as productive.
He's a good. How do I say this? He's good against the boards, which that's always nice to have, because it seems like we always lose those scrums for some stupid reason. And he's always good on the pass along pass, if that makes any sense. So if a puck comes to him, he already knows where to dish it within seconds, right? Instead of like figuring out who to get open, he's like, hey, as soon as this comes to me, I'm dishing it off to whoever.
He's second pass. He's a tenured NHL player who isn't stressed or flustered by NHL situations where we might see someone like Malinsky struggle, which he sure does seem to be cool as a cucumber in a lot of it, but Wagner kind of brings that like Brad Hunt vibe. I mean, they're just guys who are not they're not frazzled by the up and down. The NHL level does not faze them.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Okay, third line. This is your Roaring 20s line featuring Logan O'Connor, Ross Colton, and Miles Wood. I said this right before you hopped on. I love the Roaring 20s line. Keep them together at all costs, because they are like men possessed. They work so well together, and it's maybe they don't score all the goals, but they certainly keep the momentum. You know what I
know.
mean?
I'm worried for him though, because I think this was when you and I talked on the phone, is Miles Wood is it's like really getting called out, not directly, but there's praise going to LOC, there's praise going to Ross Colton, and then Bednar's talking about how he doesn't like, I mean, he very non-directly said that Miles Wood is not doing well. And Bednar had some choice words regarding the Avs forwards. He wanted more people to step up. He was not happy. Miles Wood's got to figure it out. Otherwise, it's going to be displaced. And there's a lot of people ready to take that spot, you know, and he's valuable as long as he's doing what it is that's expected from him. And he seems to have regressed to too much of a freight train. When he seemed to hone it in last year, he seemed to kind of tighten it up and get a little more technical. And from everything I understand, after the collision with Granstrom, he left the ice immediately after Bednar said he could go, and then he called or whatever and talked to him. He was absolutely distraught over the thought of hurting a teammate. And I know if you don't you don't know of him, he probably does seem like a vile, dirty dude, but I really do think he's like a puppy dog. I think he's in a weird place right now, feeling insecure and just went overboard. So I want him to find his place, because I think it's going to be such a good year for LOC. Ross Colton absolutely has to earn the contract. I mean, Ross Colton isn't quite what we expected out of him. Granted, he wasn't put in the best positions since he got here, but this is the year for those three to just soar to the moon and just take over and claim the second line altogether. I really want them to stay together. I can't remember, what did Ross Colton, was it the bumbling 20s? He said something, he was kind of poking fun at him. It was like the bumbling or stumbling 20s. It was kind of funny. I don't know. It was
pretty good.
I don't know if I could name 3 people in the NHL that I want more good things for than those 3. So I really hope they figure it out. I mean, they're probably 3 of the truly most wholesome people in the NHL.
I totally agree, because you look at Ross Colton, right? Perhaps didn't have the output we wanted to, but still, I mean, all 3 of them were perfectly serviceable. Like let's get that point across.
That's from our expectations, you know.
Yeah, it's just that we know they are well more capable of other things, right? So, like Logan O'Connor, crucial on that penalty kill. Miles Wood, he's fast as lightning. I just spit when I said that. Like, that's how impressed I am. And then Ross Colton has this energy about him. Like, whenever they score a goal, he is just elated, and it just fills you with this electricity, you know. It's just crazy. So I would probably say, oh, there you are. I would probably, like, this line out of everyone has my highest expectations as far as taking it to the next level.
Their ceiling, and
their ceiling is so.
They are an emotional force. They can propel the emotions. Guys like that drive the people around them to be happier and better.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes all the way down to my squirts. I always tell my squirts, 10-year-olds, why do we play hockey? To have fun. When is hockey fun? When we're winning. Like, we all know that winning is what makes it more fun. And that's what, it's cyclical. Like, the good attitude and good things come. Granted, some guys are propelled purely by anger. I don't like some guys. Patrick Waugh is proof that can be done, but generally happy people make more successful things. You don't hear about many of those volatile locker rooms anymore, like the good old boy angry. I don't know, like I don't know if you've read Ken Dryden's The Game, like how they had those locker rooms that some of them were just so angry and they just succeeded off of pure hate. But anymore, like, we're just too delicate for that now. Like, it's the happy is successful and good. Our locker room the chemistry was unreal in our Stanley Cup year. And it was so blatantly obvious that we lacked that. It felt like as soon as Nuke was gone the first time in the Seattle series, it just felt like the locker room never recovered.
Went away.
And
Yep.
hearing Taze talk about that, it just felt like with the Johansson thing, it just kept snowballing and
Mhm.
snowballing. And I just hope that it peaked, with the second exit of Nichushkin, and that we can start fresh. And it really, really will help to get a good start with that line thriving, because
Yeah.
people will feed off of that.
100%. They are the momentum carriers.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important. Okay, second line. So Casey Middlestat, Nikolai Kovalenko, when in place for Val Nichushkin, and Arturi Lehkonen. This
So it
one is
sounds like
going to
Lucky
be,
is skating in a non-contact. I haven't
yeah.
heard
So,
he's
so
going to be
he's
there for
he
the
might
meeting.
miss a couple weeks, but I mean, majority of the season it's going to be him, right? So that's why I'm just going to say these
That's what I
three.
have for the second line also. I'd imagine Callum might be the perfect fill-in until Kovalenko is back, and we will get a good sample size on him.
I think you're right. I think for right now it's so. I guess yeah. So Middlestat, Kovalenko, and Richie until you're right until Lehkonen comes back. This one, assuming it's Lehkonen, this one's going to be interesting because this line was your forecheck kings, right? Like they're so good on the forecheck. Is Kovalenko up for this type of task? Because we're going to throw a lot on him very quickly. This is going to be very similar to an Alex Newhook situation where it's like, hey, the reins are yours. Granted, you're not the centerman, but you're up in that second line, which means you're expected to do more than the previous two lines. Middlestat, I think, will step up to the plate, no problem. Lehkonen, I have zero concern with, other than just get healthy.
Right.
So it's
It seems
Kovalenko.
like
Is
from
he going to be
everything
like
that
a
I've
dead leg?
gathered and seen of him on the ice, it feels like he is going to be, there's you either crumble or you thrive. It really truly feels like he's going to be
Yeah.
one of those guys who shines under that type of pressure, is going to be absolutely perfect for him. And if he is going to be a Lehkonen light or a Lehkonen mini, it's almost unfathomable to have two of them on a team, but it's encouraging to know that he may be able to carry what might be
Yeah.
lacking with Richie. And I think that we might see a little it might be a little bit tough for Middleset to, I feel like there might still be a slow start for him. We'll see. I have a lot of faith in him. I think that he's going to grow when he grows into a more confident player, coming from the Sabres, and really Senators, Ottawa,
Yeah,
right?
he came from the Sabres.
I
Middlestat?
always
Yeah,
get
he
them
came from
mixed
the
up.
Sabres.
I think that he has like a newfound view of the NHL, of practicing, of what a successful team looks like and operates like. The way he spoke about just even practices, he said he's never practiced this hard in his entire life. I think we might see a transition period for him where he gains confidence, and we see him kind of transition from being just a playmaker to hopefully a little bit more in the middle.
Mhm.
But I really do think that Kovalenko can almost carry that line should we see Richie or Middlestat struggle or
Sure,
just have ups and downs.
sure.
I just have so much faith in Kovalenko. And we have to remember he's been playing in the KHL very successfully. So
Oh, yeah.
it's nice that he's not coming from college where he has this huge transition. He's been
Oh, yeah.
playing with men like a man at the top level.
Yeah.
Seems to be healthy. So I
Which is
truly think
also
that he
huge.
can carry a second line.
Yeah, and I don't right now, I don't see any worry of him being the dead leg
No.
of that line. But it's in those times because we know plenty of times throughout the season, lines are going to struggle, right? It happens with every single team, right? So it's gonna be, can this line hold up being, the temporary, patched leg looking line? I think it's going to be fine. If it ultimately it'll come down to Kovalenko.
And
If he
that's
if
where
he
the
comes
value
shooting
in
straight
his
out of the gate,
ability to move up and down is going to be so crucial, because I think
yes,
we'll see fluidity with Lehkonen coming down to maybe support Middleset in a way that Kovalenko
sure,
can.
sure,
But to now know that Kovalenko, he can pop up with who if we need to move Drouin down. I don't know how I like Drouin and Middlestat together. I think it's a little too passy, but it's also the same story. We watched Drouin gain that confidence change.
He went from your fourth line just got in to now he is an anchor for this team. He did that in less than 82 games. Like,
and I'm a firm believer in just breaking up Mac and Mikko once in a while. So to know that we can just, it's going to be really fluid. I really believe it's going, and there might be times that Logan O'Connor come on up, because I think that they're not going to tolerate any lack of effort or work from guys like Richie. You know, I don't know how long his leash will be. I have been so overwhelmed with him. I just really hope he comes out and shows. Because after so far we have cut Olausson. He's got 1 year left of waiver exempt. I
think Kylie Rosen also did.
Olausson he seems to refuse to adapt his game to play in the way that he's expected. He's got an all-world shot. He's a pansy. I mean, he absolutely does not finish the body. And he's big and huge. And it's been the same thing. Even anybody who's been watching any preseason stuff could have told you Olausson just needs to play the body and play physical. And he just can't do it. And it's a huge bummer, because I don't know if it's his last chance, but we also saw Foodie go down. We saw Sean Behrens go down, which kind of feels like Sean Behrens. Has he ever had and I know that life's not fair, but it seemed like this was supposed to be his year, but it's a business.
Well, I mean, with the Avalanche, does everyone really have a fair shot with the farm?
No.
It's pretty hard to say to justify that, but
the Eagles should kick ass this year.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I'm super excited. We have Flow TV to watch USHL, and now we get to watch the Eagles too. So if the Avs nosedive, we're all in on the Eagles.
We're all in on the Eagles. Very good. Okay, so we'll finish up with the first line then. McKinnon, Rantanen, Drouin. These are your breadwinners, right? Yeah. They're on the top line for a reason. And honestly, my expectation has not changed since the end of last season, right? I think McKinnon should go out, play for the Hart. I see no
regression from him coming this year. I
totally agree.
This hungry.
I say go and get back-to-back Hearts. And here's my thing to Mikko. Contract year, go steal a Hart from Nathan McKinnon. That's my request to him, is play. You two should play. I don't want to say selfishly, but to a point where it's like you are just trying to just outdo the other in a friendly way.
Mikko needs to prove to us he can do it while Mac doesn't have to be injured in order for him to perform. Perform while Mac is on the team. Like, for God's sake, he carried that team. Prove that you can do it with Mac on the team. And that's why it feels like it's going to be very fluid, because it's just not sustainable for some reason to keep Mikko motivated while he's with Mac. It's just like, I don't know. It's too predictable.
So he's more than capable of getting
money. So he's gonna have.
And that's gonna be the great motivator, right? So it's like, if the Hart Trophy, again, I'm spitting out Hart Trophy like it's nothing, but that's the thing. Is like, we know Mikko's capability. We know what he is able to do. So I see no reason to be like, hey, go and chase Nathan McKinnon's numbers. Go and be part of that Hart conversation toward the end. I don't care if you do end up as a finalist or not.
I can't think of a better problem to have. Than having two guys battling for the Hart on your team.
Wouldn't that be cool? Like, that would be the coolest thing. So Mikko Rantanen, I say, like, contract year, it's like, go out and earn what you think you should with your play this season. And then for the Avalanche and their response, pay the man. Right.
Drouin is on another contract year too. He's earning his next contract
and
too.
Drouin is going to be exactly what you said, to the same, maybe not the same degree, but to a lesser extent. But his expectations, now that we've seen he started in at basically just don't mess things up, to now it's like, hey, we're relying on you for
having
everything.
A contract year, but coming in with confidence and
with huge
backing of the Avalanche essentially, I don't want to say like saved him, but they truly
They
resurrected
revitalized his
his
career.
I mean, it's hard to say that he could have thrived or even signed. I mean, there's a chance he could have not been in the NHL, which is honestly,
Crazy.
yeah, it's horrific to think that somebody that performed like that last year could have just as well. It's amazing how quick a career dies. And for him to be playing with the confidence and still playing to earn a contract when he was able to play like that last year with basically feeling like the NHL other than Nathan MacKinnon was against him.
Yep. So I'm ready for Drouin to take that next step up and basically become the new Landeskog, so to speak, as far as the production numbers and
believe
stuff
he's
like that.
going to be, if not a lettered captain, I believe he is going to go down as a foundational leader in this team for the long term.
Easily. So be interesting to see kind of this top line. They, like I said, they are kind of where most of your expectation is going to be held, along with the top pairing of Makar and Taves. So I'm super excited, Britt. The freaking season's here. We're less than a week away.
Thing, how much do you love Ivan? I think that he is the other one. I don't know if he's just proof that Bednar gets obsessed with guys, or if he's proof that if you work hard enough.
I'll say this. With the injuries that I know are going to happen,
we will absolutely see him.
We will see him this season. That I will put that much out there. If we are scot-free as far as injuries, he will make a statement to be on the team next season without a doubt. So I say keep your eye on him. He'll be here quicker than you know.
The story of his name always takes over, but the story, like his testament to being an unsigned player that worked into an AHL contract, to catching the eye of Bednar, to he's not cut yet. So far we have, who is left? We've got Ivan, Tynan, Wagner, Richie, Kovalenko, Malinsky.
That sounds like a pretty good squad. Right there.
And we have to trim 2 more. I mean, Bednar has spoken Ivan's praises relentlessly. It's so nice to see the Avs excel. He's like a Logan O'Connor story. And it's just, a hockey career can be done so fast, and it's nice to see that sometimes hard work does actually get you somewhere. Pay off. So yeah, I forgot to mention him. I really struggled with him in my lineup. We're going to see him at some point.
You will.
It's going to be fluid. I'll keep saying that. Don't get attached to any line other than hopefully the Roaring 20s line, but I don't even know at this point if we can rely on that, if Miles Wood.
Oh, I'm already like financially attached to that Roaring 20s line. Like they're my cash cow.
I think that Wood is just in a weird place, in a rut, a little insecure.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll climb out.
Yeah.
He'll figure it out. Okay, well, with that then, I believe second period has already gotten started, so we will hop off and let you go back to seeing hopefully the first preseason win for the Avalanche. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't mean anything, but it's like, at least win one.
The guy asked, there was a reporter asking Craig Berube, the Toronto coach, they had lost like 2 games in a row, and basically asking him if it was time to panic. And it's like, oh my God, you people in Toronto are out of your mind.
Yeah, so it's weird. But either way, it's fun to at least watch Avalanche hockey. Go watch Nate. I think McKinnon's there. I saw Taves. I saw.
It's nice. We haven't seen
Drouin out there. Yeah, there's a few big names, so
could be good. So is that what we're...
No, which is
it's just done.
All right, I'll finish with this. I'll finish with this joke. Is you saw that Utah announced their new concession prices?
Yeah,
$3 hot dogs, $2 Dasani water, like crazy good. And the thing was a picture of Phil Kessel not calling up the Utah organization.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And I was like, that's really funny, but like not nice, but it was pretty funny.
And the funny thing is, like, that was like a made up story. Like, he's not even, they just I think they just
No.
pulled that out of their ass. Poor Phil
He just
Kessel.
likes because here's the thing. It's like, what was it last season that it was? Oh my gosh, what was the backup goalie's name temporarily for the Avs? Not Kovalenko, Prosvetov. He would slip hot dogs himself between intermissions and openly admitted to it. So it's like, okay, Phil Kessel likes hot dogs, so do the rest of us, you know.
And also, I don't care what you eat when you're one of the most prolific goal scorers.
Yeah, it's like, who cares?
It can't end like that, though, can it? Like,
I don't know, but either way, I thought it was a pretty funny little joke. So I mean, if that's what gets Phil Kessel on Utah,
really
I won't be
amazing
upset.
that their concession prices. That's a statement. That's
huge. And then Utah also announced that in select games they will offer dishes from the visiting team's location. So like they're going to bring poutine. They're going to make poutine dip to the Canadian team that visits.
So how much is soda? Because that's what.
So sodas, I think, they're also going to be like $3.
How are they going to? Okay, is that sustainable? Where are they making their
money?
Mean,
if the Las Vegas Raiders have done it for the last 3-4 years, I don't see why.
Have they?
Yeah, when we went to a Raiders game last year, they were $3 hot dogs, and so my wife and I just packed up like a bunch of them for my parents and I and my wife.
I didn't think it was like legal in Vegas to charge. I paid like $27 for a vodka and Coke just so I could have a drink while I was standing at the bar in our hotel when I was there. It was literally like and I paid like vodka, Coke, and I'm just, but like, have to like just have a drink while we're here.
Yeah,
when they said the price, I think my jaw actually dropped. No, I think that is such an amazing thing from the owners. It's like $2 water.
That's a new precedent for the rest of the league.
It's going to allow more people to go to the game.
Yeah, and not spend a fortune.
From different economic classes. I mean, it is truly has to be a consideration if you can go and actually eat while you're there.
Yeah,
or have water, because you can't bring water bottles in a lot of places.
Water is $2 now. Like that's important. That's your vital life force is water. So anyway, okay, so we're talking too much.
Right,
so
I said I would shut up.
We'll shut up and let you guys go on with the game. So thank you everybody for watching this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast. Obviously, we had a lot to talk about. We're gonna have a lot more to talk about because the season is here. By this time next week, the Avalanche will have played their first game against the Vegas Golden Knights in Vegas.
Nobody gets hurt. We might be the only team going unscathed.
Potentially.
Yeah. Of preseason injuries. We'll see.
Yep. So we'll squeak an episode out before then. We'll just figure out a time when we're going to be able to do it. But we'll get you on for the review of the 2024-2025 season. With that, though, we will sign off for this episode so you can watch the rest of the preseason game. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow the MHRT network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can follow them on the various social media platforms of your choosing. If you want to follow us, you can follow us at Cluster Puck Podcast. The Cluster Puck Podcast. Oh, the Avalanche just scored a second goal. I'll give you 2 guesses as to who.
Jonathan Drouin.
No. And the other one?
Ivan.
No, it was Sam Malinsky.
Oh, good for him, dude.
Anyway, if you want to follow, you can follow us at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and then at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. With that being said, we've told you we're going to sign off. Now we're actually going to sign off. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week. The preseason's almost done. The next episode will be the season preview in its fullest. So with that being said,
I'm going to live stream during the opener. Just throwing that out there. Nothing
else.
Works. Leave it at that.
That works. Okay. With that being said, have a great weekend. And as always, go Avs go.
Fast lane when I pass in the street. Bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what